Once upon a time, in a quiet northern city where winters arrived early and stayed long, there lived a 27-year-old man named Eli. Eli was not a troubled person by any obvious measure. He was thoughtful, reasonably kind, and capable enough at the work he did managing logistics for a mid-sized company. People who knew him casually would have described him as calm. People who knew him well would have told you something different. Inside Eli's mind, there was a voice that never stopped. Not a strange voice, not an unusual one, just the ordinary, relentless internal commentary that most people live with and almost no one talks about. But in Eli, it had a particular quality. It was a critical voice, precise and familiar, and always there. When he made a mistake at work, however small, the voice replayed it for 3 days. When a conversation ended awkwardly, the voice reconstructed it for hours, identifying every moment Eli could have said something better. When he lay in bed at night, the voice brought him a complete inventory of everything he had failed to do, everything he had done imperfectly, and everything that might go wrong tomorrow. He had lived with it so long he had stopped noticing it was happening. It was the water he swam in, the air he breathed. He assumed this was simply what it meant to have a mind. What Eli did not understand was that he had never learned the difference between having a thought and being owned by one. One weekend in late October, Eli visited his father's older brother, his uncle Bernard, who lived alone in a narrow house at the end of a long road outside the city. Bernard was 64, a former secondary school teacher who had retired 3 years earlier and spent his days reading, tending a small vegetable plot behind the house, and moving through his hours with an unhurried deliberateness that had always puzzled Eli slightly. Bernard was not a spiritual man in any formal sense. He did not meditate or speak in the language of self-help. He was simply a man who had learned, at some point in his long life, how to be in a room without fighting it. Eli sat with him at the kitchen table after lunch. Outside the window, the last of the autumn leaves were coming down in slow, unhurried intervals. After a while, Eli said, "I've been exhausted lately. Not physically, something else. My mind won't give me a moment." Bernard looked at him without surprise, the way people look when they have been expecting a conversation for some time. He was quiet for a moment. Then he stood and walked to the window and stood there looking out at the garden. "Come here," he said. Eli stood beside him. The garden was still. A few leaves drifted down from the oak at the far end. A bird moved through the lower branches and was gone. "What do you see?" Bernard asked. Eli looked. The garden, the tree, leaves falling. "Do you see yourself fighting any of it?" Eli looked again. "No. The leaves fall and you watch them. You don't argue with them. You don't tell them they are falling incorrectly. You don't spend tomorrow thinking about how they fell today." Bernard turned from the window, but a thought arrives in your mind and immediately you are in a wrestling match with it. You grab it, you examine it from every angle. You decide it means something about you. You carry it out of the room and into the next day. He returned to his chair and sat down with the ease of a man who has nowhere to be. You have never learned to watch a thought the way you just watched those leaves. Eli looked back at the window. The tree was quiet now. "It's not the same," he said. "Leaves don't matter. Thoughts do. Some thoughts carry real information," Bernard said. "A thought that tells you there is a problem worth solving that is useful. Act on it. But most of what arrives in the human mind is not useful information. It is noise, repetition, the same worry in a slightly different coat, the same old failure wearing a new excuse to visit." He picked up his cup. "The mistake is treating all of it as equally important, as if every thought that arrives deserves a full hearing." Eli sat with that. "How do you know the difference?" he asked. Bernard thought about it honestly, the way people think when they are not performing an answer but actually looking for one. "Ask yourself one question," he said. "Is there something I can do about this right now? If yes, do it and let the thought go. If no, then the thought is not asking you to solve something. It is asking you to suffer. And that is an invitation you are allowed to decline." Eli drove home that evening with the window down despite the cold. He was not transformed. He did not feel suddenly light. But something Bernard had said had shifted a small internal thing. The way moving a piece of furniture slightly can change how an entire room feels. He was allowed to decline. He had never thought of it that way. He had always treated his thoughts as obligations, as summons. When his mind called him back to a 3-day-old mistake, he appeared. When it handed him tomorrow's anxiety at 11 o'clock at night, he accepted it and turned it over in his hands for an hour. It had never once occurred to him that he could look at what arrived, recognize it had nothing useful to give him at this particular moment, and simply not pick it up. That night he lay in bed and waited for the familiar inventory to begin. It began an email he had sent that afternoon that might have been read the wrong way. A meeting next Thursday that he had not prepared enough for. A comment someone made 6 weeks ago that he still had not fully interpreted. And for the first time, instead of entering each one, he watched them arrive the way he had watched the leaves come down in Bernard's garden. Present, acknowledged, not grabbed. The email arrived and he watched it. Nothing I can do about it tonight. He let it pass. The Thursday meeting arrived. I'll prepare Wednesday. He let it pass. The comment from 6 weeks ago arrived. He looked at it for a moment, old and worn smooth from being handled so many times, and then he set it down. There had never been anything there. He had simply kept returning to it, hoping to find something he had missed. There was nothing to find. It took time. He did not master it that night or the week after. There were evenings the voice was louder than his ability to simply watch it. There were mornings he arrived at his desk already carrying 3 things he had picked up before breakfast. But slowly, with the unspectacular consistency of someone practicing something real rather than performing something impressive, Eli began to change. Not the circumstances of his life, not the volume of thoughts that arrived. The mind produces what it produces, and that does not change. What changed was the space between the thought and his response to it. A small space at first, large enough, on a good day, to ask one quiet question. Is there something I can do about this right now? Often the answer was no, and no was enough to set it down. He was not trying to empty his mind. He was not trying to silence anything. He was simply learning, one thought at a time, what belonged to him and what he had been carrying as a tenant that had long overstayed its welcome. The weight did not disappear, but it became, finally, something he was choosing. And the things we choose to carry feel entirely different from the things we never thought to put down. So tell me, my friend, what are you carrying right now that has nothing useful left to give you? What thought have you been picking up every day, turning over in your hands, searching for an answer that was never inside it? You are not required to carry everything that arrives. You are only required to carry what is real, what is actionable, and what belongs to the life you are actually living, not the one your mind keeps rehearsing in the dark. The next thought that comes, watch it first. Ask your one question. And if the answer is no, you already know what to do. Set it down.